Everybody makes mistakes, but not everybody has their worst takes and predictions captured on video. Let's go back into memory lane and take a stroll and see what were some of the coldest takes and the predictions we were just way off. We're not going to get them all right, but again, if you saw this, you know we were way off on these. Chris, I bet you don't even remember this prediction that you made about a stud wide receiver.
I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown literally won people their fantasy championships, but I think he's going to be overhyped and overdrafted in 2022. I mean, you look at down the stretch, everything pretty much broke right for Amon-Ra St. Brown. You also got to think the Lions are at worst going to sign a veteran type wide receiver if they don't draft a wide receiver as well. They have to improve this wide receiver room. And there's no promise that it's going to be Jared Goff, who loves to throw short check down routes next year at quarterback either. There's just a lot of things here to be worried about when it comes to Amon-Ra St. Brown. It just felt like it was a perfect storm of everything for him down the stretch, and I don't see that happening again in 2022.
Oh boy, oh man, where to start with that one? Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of my biggest misses last year, no doubt about it. But also, I like the part where I said, like, there's no guarantee Jared Goff is going to be the quarterback here. And Jared Goff was great last year, almost led him to the playoffs. And I guess the one thing I got right is they did draft a wide receiver. Like I said, they just happened to draft one with a torn ACL who barely played and had no impact. But yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a stud. And yeah, I don't think it matters, you know, who else is there or who's around him. He's going to be a beast. I will definitely be not calling Amon-Ra St. Brown a bust or a hype this year. I will definitely be on him. But you know, Pierre, I wasn't alone on this. You had a wide receiver that you really thought was gonna break out last year, and I'm not sure it happened. Let's see.
Now, Darnell Mooney of the Bears, I'm going to say, hasn't quite broken out yet. Right now, before the final week of the season, at 929 yards, maybe he gets to 1,000, right? And that's pretty good. But how many weeks was he really in your fantasy lineup? So here's the thing, Mooney now has a chance to be the clear number one receiver. I mean, technically he was the number one receiver this year, even though he shouldn't have been. Allen Robinson, let's not get started on that. But Robinson, it's a pretty safe bet. He's not going to be back in Chicago next year. Darnell Mooney will be the guy, and he gets to grow with Justin Fields, who again, a little inconsistent as a rookie. We know he's going to get better, super talented. The chemistry was developing. So I think Mooney can go from a fringe 1,000-yard receiver to a every week wide receiver 2. And if Matt Nagy gets fired, besides all Chicago celebrating, I think we can expect this offense to get a lot better. So Mooney's a guy I think could go from a solid fringe start receiver to an absolute lock, maybe top 20 fantasy receiver. Lock. Did I just say a lock to be a top 20 fantasy? All right. I ought to watch my phrasing a little bit there. I mean, okay, so they weren't better. In fact, I think they might have been worse offensively this year. Okay, and I can't say, oh, he got hurt. He was just terrible. He was terrible the first half of the season, and it wasn't just him. I mean, Fields, sure, he looked great toward the end of the season once he started running, but not passing. But that was just a little too bold, maybe a little too bold. And I was so confident, wasn't I? All right. But it's your turn, and I know that sometimes things sound so good when we say them. Like, you're just so confident this has got to happen, and it doesn't happen the way we think it's going to. In case in point.
I mean, Jonathan Taylor is the obvious pick here, but I really don't think he's going to repeat as the running back 1. I think it's going to be Naji Harris. For as good as Jonathan Taylor was, he didn't have a dominant running back season. It was just all the other really good running backs kind of fell by the wayside. The reason why I really like Naji even more than Jonathan Taylor next year is that passing game work. Naji had the second most carries, but he led all running backs in targets last year. What did he lack in last year? Touchdowns and efficiency. Why? Because the offense was terrible with Ben Roethlisberger, and the offensive line is terrible. You got to think they're going to upgrade the offensive line. We know they're probably going to upgrade the quarterback position in some capacity. So we could see Naji Harris running behind a better offensive line, getting more chances to score touchdowns, and I think that's going to give him the edge over Jonathan Taylor by the end of the season?
Oh man, oh boy, there's so much to unpack here. I mean, at least I got Jonathan Taylor right. I got that right. Upgrade the offensive line. Did not upgrade the offensive line. Upgrade the quarterback. Didn't upgrade the quarterback. I don't even think, did he even score more touchdowns? He caught less passes. He wasn't even more efficient. Najee Harris was a huge whiff for me. I was all on board Najee Harris. I really did think he was going to be the RB1 going into year 2. It just, man, what a bust. Hopefully, maybe I was a year late. Maybe he'll do it this year, but probably not. It's probably too bold. So, yeah, I had a feeling I was going to have to react to Naji Harris. I definitely got him wrong, no doubt. But, there's a running back who you were high on, I think 2 years in a row, actually, that maybe didn't quite pan out last year either. Let's check it out.
There you go. All right, so my next pick might be surprising only in the fact that I didn't put him first. That's a guy I love, always will love, is Cam Akers.
I already know.
So I think I had him pegged for like fantasy MVP heading into last season. And then, of course, tore his Achilles, missed the whole season, except he didn't. He came back miraculously late in the year, a couple touches. And then look what happened in the playoffs. Here's the thing. People thought he shouldn't even be on the field. He wasn't going to be anywhere close to being back. He did, and he got in the playoffs, right? Of course, Rams in their Super Bowl run, 17 carries, 24 carries, 13 and 13 in the Super Bowl. So that doesn't look like a guy that they were slow playing. They fed him the ball just like always. Now, I will admit, he wasn't very good, right? He wasn't very efficient. He averaged barely over 2 yards a carry. So it's not as if he, is the reason that they did win a championship. But the fact that he got that kind of workload, even coming back right off of that injury, that tells me he's clearly the bell cow there. Look, Sony Michel did fine. He's a free agent. He'll go somewhere else. Darrell Henderson did fine in relief, but I think it's obvious that once Akers is fully healthy, he is the guy. Henderson will come in just once in a while, to relieve him, but I think Akers is going to get a ton of carries. He's going to be back to being his explosive self by the time next season starts. I really think he's going to be undervalued, and I'm going to grab him all over the place at a discount. So, yeah, I still love Cam Akers.
And I did. I grabbed him all over the place, and wow, that was so helpful for me. I love the explosive. Yes, he was so explosive, averaging 3.5 or 3. No, I think it was 2.9 yards per carry, something like that. Look, I was right about the fact that he would wind up being the guy, and Darrell Henderson wound up being nothing. It just took like 14 weeks. I mean, better late than never. Maybe drafting him wasn't really the best idea, but he was great in weeks 15, 16, and I think 17. Look, am I still going to be all over Cam Akers next year? Absolutely. Of course I am. I am. So those players didn't quite pan out for us last year. But you know what? There are some players that didn't work out for anybody. They were just flat out annoying in fantasy football. Who are they? Check out our top 10 list right here.